Well, you've seen the title, so I'm just not even going to do the intro and just tell you Destiny 2 is done. Officially done. Now, you've probably already heard the news. It's been blowing up all over the games industry, rightfully so, because, well, Destiny as a franchise was a trendsetter. It was the big thing to copy back in its day. And its ending is like watching a monument collapse, and, well, as history shows, that tends to draw a crowd, so. Yeah, I'm not going to do any reporting on, the fact that it ended or, what exactly the last twad said or any of the stuff like that. I'm just going to just give my opinion, our opinion, I suppose. And Jesse can interject here, of course, as always.
I'll be here.
But I'll be far more monotone for this one because there's nothing good to talk about here.
It's the end. It's the end.
It's the end. And honestly, I'm probably going to use this as a title because I haven't settled on a title yet, but it's Destiny deserved better.
Hmm?
It did deserve better.
Hmm. I can agree with
So,
that.
how exactly did we get here? It's going to be my whole point of this, right? Well, honestly, I don't know. My personal opinion is it's a mixture of a layover of Pete Parsons' poor management, who is himself long gone, probably enjoying his expensive cars on some vacation villa somewhere. Who knows? Who cares? But it's a part of that leadership's holdover, all those bad decisions still coming to roost even now. And honestly, Sony, you know? Because here's the thing, right? There was actually a plan originally to do this video yesterday, but we talked about it and ultimately we decided to do it today. And it's a good thing that we did because more bad news broke and, well, it ain't good. Not only is Destiny 2 done, but according to both Paul Tassi and Jason Schreier, who himself reported on something that we'll get to later, it isn't good news either, as you can probably imagine, but it's worth mentioning still. There is no D3.
Nothing else is coming.
If there is that nothing else is coming. I'm just gonna break the news right now. It's when Destiny and that twid said Destiny will live on beyond D2, they pretty much just meant the mobile game because as things stand right now, as of the reporting, there is no Destiny 3 in the works. It hasn't even been greenlit. If there is anything, it's talks, and those talks are going nowhere. Sony wants Marathon. Why? Sunk cost fallacy, I guess. I mean, it definitely seems like Marathon was, at least in both, or at least in Sony's eyes, it was supposed to be the hot new thing. It was probably sold to them by Parsons as the hot thing that was going to make all the money in the world, and everyone with eyeballs knew that wasn't going to work, and anyone with functioning brain cells knew why. But Sony, I guess, has neither of those things, and they bought the whole thing hook, line, and sinker because I guess they only speak in buzzwords. And when Marathon came, and I'll be honest here, I'll be fair. Marathon's a good game. Let no one tell you otherwise. As far as extraction shooter games go, it is a good game.
It's
You
got
can
its
tell
hook.
Yeah, it's got its hook, and there's definitely Bungie DNA in there, and that's a good DNA. It's appealing. But the fact is, it's an extraction shooter. That's the beginning and the end of the question and the statement. It's an extraction shooter. Extraction shooters have an audience, and it ain't a big one. And it's a well known fact that it ain't a big one. Sony might have been sitting there hoping, twiddling their hands all maniacally, hoping that it would become Arc Raiders. But as I said before, anyone with two brain cells knew that wasn't probably going to happen.
Yeah.
Definitely wasn't going to happen.
Well, that's
And when it didn't. Oh, no, sorry, go on.
that. Well, like I was gonna quickly say, that's the thing.
Hmm.
No matter what, it's not a horde shooter. It's not a sandbox game. It's not a army simulation game. It's not a city building game. It's an extraction shooter. It is its own market within the gaming sphere, and no matter what, you have to cater towards that. But because they're catering towards that, that is a very small audience and a small set of people who are going to be paying for that product.
Worse still, I would argue,
Mm,
it's what you would term in the business world a niche within a niche.
true.
It is not only an extraction shooter, which is already a niche genre, it is an extremely hardcore extraction shooter, which is already a niche within that niche. Not everyone within the extraction shooter genre wants to do hardcore. Arc Raiders, like I said before, is the big smash success, but I'll tell you one thing that Marathon is that it is not hardcore. It's a casual game, Arc Raiders, and it's a well-known fact that it's a casual game, and that's what brings in the crowds. But that's not what Marathon is. So again, how anyone thought that it was going to be Arc Raiders is beyond me. Like I said, I guess Pete is just that good of a salesman. But ultimately, that's kind of bringing us to where we are now. It's kind of funny, actually, I bring this up. I was spending the last 2 days kind of compiling different opinions from both reporters and, of course, individuals who are very closely tied to it. You know, individuals like Cross, like Bife, like Datto.
All the big
Some,
names.
all the big names in the space related to Destiny. And even a few who had nothing to do with Destiny. I mentioned, or I don't know if I mentioned yet, but I looked at Inside Games. I followed them for a long time, even back when they were Inside Gaming. Lawrence talked about it on the show. And he said something that I think really kind of encapsulates the whole where we are now thing. When you read the TWID, it pretty much goes on about how Destiny is incubating other projects and that they're going to move on to other games and stuff like that. And basically, Lawrence pointed out that when you read all the fine print and you pick between the details, it has this air of empty words. Effectively, they're saying they have new projects, but they don't want to say what any of them are because it really doesn't feel like they actually do. It's just like that whole moment of, yeah, I've got a plan. Trust me, I've got a plan. I do not have a plan. You know, it's one of those things of just, you know, they were basically just spinning their wheels.
A sudden
I think you put it,
announcement, and
yeah,
we know what we're doing, but the announcement itself feels like they don't.
yeah. I think he himself put it akin to the way of that, that whole we're having new games we're working on basically kind of amounts to we're just going to draw a bunch of stuff on a dry erase board and hope something falls out of that.
Hopefully
That
something
seems to be,
sticks.
hopefully something sticks. That seems to be the tone that is carried with it. And this is kind of where I go back to individuals like Tassie because future reporting kind of confirms it. I wouldn't say they don't have any future projects, but by the sounds of it, they don't really have any big new thing yet. Marathon is the big new thing. And that kind of brings us right back to Lawrence, where he kind of says, is this the end of Bungie? And I'm just going to cut that idea right off here. No, I don't think so. He does not think so. Everyone in the industry does not think so. Bungie is going to
Argue, however, this isn't the end of Bungie, but I would be concerned for Bungie.
very true.
I would be very concerned for Bungie.
Very true. As Lawrence himself put it very eloquently, Bungie is officially on notice with Sony.
Yes.
There is definitely a I think Paul himself also mentioned this where it feels like Sony is sick of their shit.
Mm.
Like they're out of chances. Or if they do, they're very low.
This is pretty much the best way to put it is there is a good chance that the Bungie everyone knew at some point in time might be suddenly gone, and Bungie will just be a name of a studio, but not the studio anyone remotely knew.
I don't know if I'd put
Like,
it that way
well,
personally.
like I put it in along the lines of like they could be
Hmm.
more or less like really serious levels of bought out thrown around, like just another company that people basically buy and sell, basically becoming kind of like a stock.
I doubt it.
Mm,
I honestly highly doubt it. And it comes back to another thing that we have to remember with Sony, and it's a number. 3 point something billion. That is
yes.
the number that was bought by Sony for Bungie.
Yes, and that is no small amount.
That is no small amount. That is a massive investment, which kind
Mm,
of brings us back to why I think they're kind of sick of it. You know, they want their money, and they're not seeing the money they think. But this kind of brings us back to Sony when it's kind of the idea of these decisions don't make sense. They make no business sense. They
mm,
seem, as I mentioned, petty, purely petty, because ultimately you don't close down the more profitable game for the less profitable option based purely on hope. Now, you could argue this is Sony's sunk cost fallacy showing, where they're just throwing good money after bad in a way. And I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's the same
it's
reason they won't greenlight Destiny 3. They think it's just throwing good money after bad.
it's just it's really weird because no matter what, the their their actions make it seem like they want their money now. They put their money into their investment and they want the investment to go and have returns right away. The
Hmm.
problem is the fact that Destiny 2, more or less, was making profit. It was making profit, even though there wasn't a whole lot of content coming out constantly like it used to. It was still making a very sizable, consistent profit. And
Hmm.
because of the fact that they've basically outright said, all right, this is it, it's done, nothing else, just patch notes and that's it, that in and itself basically immediately drops that consistent revenue. So it makes it so much harder for Sony to go and get their investment back, to get their returns. So it
Well,
really, like,
hmm.
how are they going and expecting to get returns if they're basically cutting down the revenue sources?
You set up really good transitions. I'll give you that sometimes.
Hmm.
Because it's a really good transition into that point I mentioned a lot earlier in the show. That whole bad news that Schreier mentioned that I'll talk about. Yeah, we'll talk about it now. So, according to Schreier, and I'll bring up Bife real quickly as a tangential note, because it is kind of a. Unfortunately, he was
In
kind of
that,
wrong on this one. Well, I wouldn't say wrong, but he was, he's not going to like this. I don't know because he knows people at Bungie and stuff like that. It's a side point, but still, he hoped that everyone at Bungie would keep their jobs and everything would be great. And you're probably guessing where I'm going with this, so I'll just break the news. There will be layoffs. Schreier has already reported that internally there are plans for layoffs. How big? We don't know. How many? We don't know. But there will be layoffs. It seems like the closure of D2 is just another round for Bungie, Sony, maybe both, to just sit there and tighten the belt. They don't need the people for D2 anymore, so they'll transfer who they can over, and the rest, out they
that's it.
go. That's it. Another round of layoffs, which I don't know what to say, honestly, because how in the world do those optics look good to anybody, Like, this is where I kind of sit here and put my own point in, where it's like, they want Marathon to succeed. Destiny, definitely. Or Bungie, excuse me, definitely. Bungie definitely wants Marathon to succeed right now. Sony definitely wants Marathon to succeed. Probably because, well, like I said before, I kind of joked about it, but I wouldn't be surprised if Parsons sold them on the idea of Marathon being this big blockbuster, and they bought it, and they still believe in that lie, that it will be a big thing. All these things coming to Marathon, the PvE mode, the all this crazy stuff, that was not planned. That was all improv. We know that. People like Tassie have already confirmed that it was improv. There was no plans for that ever coming in. They're going to try and make it more casual because they want to make it bigger. They need to make it bigger, and they know that. But ultimately, it's kind of this thing of Marathon is not enough on its own. It never will be enough on its own. And the how do you expect anyone to buy into the whole Marathon dream, let's call it, when you just kill Destiny for the most idiotic of fucking reasons? I'll be that guy and just say it that way because I think it's a fair
I
statement.
mean, no matter what, there's no real good way of looking at it. Like,
There isn't.
no matter what, which way you slice or look at it, even if you were not a fan of Destiny and you're a great fan of Marathon, it makes no sense to just close Destiny and only focus on Marathon. It makes more sense to have both games running and just make revenue from both games.
Indeed, honestly. Or even if not, have something there. Like I said, we could go back to the whole Greenlight D3 thing. But I think I don't remember who said it. It might be Paul, might be Lawrence, might be one of them, but one of them basically said that, and I very much agree with that, or maybe it was a comment I even read, might not even be them, or one of their videos where it's someone pointed out with now that we know the layoffs are coming, D3 is definitely not on the cards for any foreseeable future because they will need more people than they have now to make D3, and by the sounds of it, more people is not what they're having. It's going to be
I
less.
I would say this, if there is ever the quote unquote possibility of a Destiny 3 or a proper continuation of the Destiny saga and story, it will not be for the next 10 or plus years. It will not be
Possibly.
for a while.
We'll be on the Halo timeline.
And even then, like, the major problem is the fact that it's obvious Bungie as a studio is going to be getting rid of basically more or less the remaining core talent that helped make Destiny what it was. That's obvious
Mm.
what's going to happen. The only
Or they'll
people
transfer
who are going
them
to
over.
be there are going to be the people who are an asset and value to help them with Marathon that they view as the this person will help with keeping Marathon going.
Mm.
So by that point in time, anyone who could be like available for Destiny 3 for the continuation of the Destiny story will not be anyone remotely familiar with Destiny. It will be an entire new cast and crew, meaning for all intents purposes, if they ever do decide to go and continue the Destiny storyline, it will be 100% a gamble because it it's not a chance of it might hit. It is a chance of it's probably going to miss because any bit of personnel who worked on Destiny will likely not be around by the time they finally make the decision to actually work on the next Destiny project. Because over time, people filter out no matter what. People will filter out through Bungie.
Mm.
So, who knows?
I don't know. I personally would say that they might still be around, but they'll definitely be working on other projects.
Well,
It's
yeah,
clear,
like
and I pretty
they
much.
might be working on different projects, but like for all we
Mm.
know, the people who are sticking around, who are well, I wouldn't say sticking around, who are going to still be around because they're obviously going to be moving them over to work on Marathon. They might be retire. They might retire by the time that the next Destiny project comes up. Like
I don't know.
we don't know. We don't know for sure. We honestly don't know. This is all a
We don't
big
know.
unknown. But like
Yeah, it's a big unknown.
the main point I'm trying to make is no matter what, the next Destiny project is going to be so loose threaded in the chance of it getting an actual good hit and sticking for like a market. It's more or less what Forsaken was like, what it was like for Destiny for Forsaken. Things just not looking good, but worse, so much worse.
I wouldn't be that negative about it,
I
but
yeah
I
yeah.
would definitely say that Destiny, if it ever did get greenlit, would sell well, very well, I would imagine.
Yeah, like no matter what, there's going to be a lot of people who get it. Even if it's not what people expect, people are very well likely going to get the next Destiny game if there is a one that comes out next.
And that kind of brings us way back to the original point of none of this makes logical sense. And that's why I kind of feel like this is Sony being a bit petty, as I keep bringing up. It does seem a little odd, and this is kind of where I kind of segue into the idea that another thing that was brought up in Inside Games, which again I do agree with. I'm kind
Mm.
of compiling people's opinions here, but I do agree with them, and I'm adding points in when they like I can. Is that it feels like so much stuff got thrown on the cutting room floor. Because you got to remember, right? There was a whole saga planned out, narratively at the very least, and there was definitely work done for the whole new Chicago or whatever the heck they were going to destination. Definitely for next season, all that audio work was done, all that animation. None of that's coming with the whole final update. Yeah, we're getting things like Sparrow Racing League and all the quality of life stuff they're probably hoping to add later down the line. But all that stuff's worked on way in advance. But all the narrative stuff and all the, all the next season stuff that they were doing, that's just getting scrapped. So it's weird why even that is getting scrapped. Like, why not do all of this and bundle it with the next season, right? Why why kind of just leave all of that stuff on the cutting room floor? It feels like a waste. Which is where I kind of come into the idea that this feels like a very last minute decision, like spur of the moment. Which is where I kind of segue back to the idea that it feels a little weird. This came only a few days, week or so after Sony made a massive markdown on Sony or on Bungie by another 765 million. Which, let me be very clear, Sony overpaid. I think they are well aware of the fact they overpaid. And ultimately, them marking down Bungie was in one way or another inevitable. Even in the timeline where none of this happened, Marathon succeeds, Destiny 2 is either still going or cancelled in the name of a D3 announcement, all that stuff. Let's say that timeline happened, they were still going to have to mark down Bungie, because they were never going to get the full amount they paid back. They were
It
just
is
never doing it.
near impossible to get that money back.
Yeah, no, they way overpaid. Like I
Yeah.
said, Parsons sold them basically, I wouldn't say a lemon, but he really sold them overpriced stuff. And ultimately, and I keep harping on Parson because I feel like he shares a lot of the blame here. I do believe that modern Bungie is kind of just living with the consequences of his and current Sony's decision making.
Mm.
Parson made things bad. Sony definitely didn't help.
Sony kind of just
They
aspirated
were
and
basically putting
accelerated
everything on
that.
Meryl. They were very much putting all of their eggs and kind of almost forcing all the eggs into the marathon basket. Like I said, maybe, and again, I say Parsons sold the marathon. This is all a theory from me. I don't know what exactly he pitched to Sony when the acquisitions came through. But I'm willing to bet, because of everything being wagered on Marathon, as a wagering man myself, all the stuff being wagered on Marathon, all of the pushing from Sony to make Marathon succeed, even at the arguable detriment of everything and everyone else around them, that Parsons sold them the idea that it was going to be this big hit. And they, either knowingly or not, still are trying to achieve that. They either fully still believe that lie, or they're desperate to hope they're desperately trying to make it a reality despite everything, because yeah, that's kind of it feels like that, right? I've always believed that Marathon's entire existence, because of just the niche within a niche that it was, the little business descents that it made, like reviving a franchise from the grave is not unheard of in this industry. Many companies
It
and studios have
it
done it dozens
happens very, very often.
very, very often, but
Mm.
reviving it in such a way where it almost sings of corporate buzzwords of the time. Like, I was talking with Justin about this yesterday, where I said, when Marathon was first announced, Arc Knight or Arc Raiders wasn't, I think, either even around yet, and Tarkov was still the hot thing.
Mm-hmm.
And if Arc Raiders did exist, it was still in its infancy.
Yeah.
So putting all of that together, all of those big names together, the whole idea of extraction being the big buzzword, it feels weird that when they chose to revive Marathon, that's the direction they took it. Because Marathon's from way back in the 80s, back before the idea of extraction even existed. Or 90s, I think. 90s, I think. Before extraction even existed. So, why go that direction unless you're doing the obvious of chasing trends? And why else would you chase trends except either to A, hopefully cash in on them, which I don't know. The way they rushed Marathon to basically get out the door in the name of cashing in, that might be true. Or they did it purely with the idea of inflating their sales numbers to Sony just so they could look better and get more money for the executives who are now all living on a yacht somewhere, I
And
imagine.
keep in mind, this goes back to during the time where it was more or less proven fact that the executives at Bungie at the time were basically just setting themselves up with end of life deals to go and get like good payouts before they suddenly leave the company. So, like, it really does just purely scream they brought out like a horse and just fluffed it up as much as they could to go and make it really look super expensive. They tried to make
Mhm.
it look like a golden goose.
They tried to make it look like a golden goose, and while I won't lie, they weren't entirely wrong. They very much oversold it.
Hmm.
And ultimately, they got what they wanted, and we're left holding the check. Sony's left holding the check, and they're definitely not happy about it. Ultimately, never forget two things. One, the same guy we're talking about is the same guy who, when asked by shareholders when Sony was, or Bungie, excuse me, was in a pretty rough patch, one of the earlier rough patches, I should probably say, by the executive, or by the shareholders, will the executives take a pay cut to avoid layoffs? That is the question they asked P. Parsons. Parsons' response was literally, "We are not that kind of company." In the words of a comment I heard over one of the videos I was looking at, that should tell you all you need to know. They were only concerned about their exec. They were only concerned about how much they made. They being the executive branch.
They
To
only
hell with
cared
everyone else.
about their payout, their final cut.
Exactly. And they were, by the looks of what they did with Sony, willing to go to straight up, I wouldn't say lying, but definitely overselling ends to ensure that that golden parachute was very fluffy. The other thing you should always remember is this. This is the same studio. Nay, the same executives. I don't blame the devs entirely. I don't think I should blame the devs at all, honestly. They're just following orders.
The only time you blame the devs is when you know it's 100% okay, this is a gameplay thing that shouldn't even be like this. And even then,
Hmm.
90% of the time it is not the devs.
Hmm. That's a whole other conversation. Regardless, this is the same studio then, let's say. For the sake of both encapsulating and not encapsulating the good and bad actors here, that this is a. Let me say that again. This is a studio that said to us, when Marathon first released and we asked, will this affect Destiny? They responded, Marathon will not affect Destiny 2. They said that to us. We have it on record. And well, years later, that just turned out to be just another lie. Because, as many people have been pointing out in the comment sections related to this stuff, Destiny died so Marathon could live just a little longer. Will I think that do I think Marathon will die? Not soon. Not anytime soon anyway. Sony at the very least, and definitely Bungie, have at least a year's worth of plans for it. Beyond that, who can say? The numbers, like I said, and as anyone who looks at that game can tell you, are not good. They're not. But again, sunk cost is a hell of a motivator, I suppose. So who knows? Maybe they'll keep the thing hobbling along just in the name of until it gets bigger. Who knows? I mean, heck, Destiny launched as a lemon, you could argue, and look how that turned out. Look how that turned out. And that kind of brings another thing you should remember. I wonder how many people are going to stick to the whole marathon thing after seeing how Bungie, shall we say, excommunicated Destiny. Or at the very least, Destiny 2.
That
Destiny as a franchise is who knows.
that goes into a fine point that I just thought of. Is this goes over this is off topic slightly, but it's to help me make a point.
Mm.
Looking over at Valve for a second, okay? Literally just hear me out when I say this.
Mm-mm.
If Valve ever decided to basically shut down TF2 or shut down the trading servers for TF2, that would send the message to all the CS:GO players that everything they worked for means nothing, and they would flock away from the game pretty quickly. That's more or less kind of how marathon players might be feeling right now, looking at Destiny.
That's fair.
Bungie basically pulled the plug on Destiny 2, and marathon players are sitting there looking at that, watching that happen, and are like, yeah, that's gonna be
Are we
me.
next?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not, are we next? That's going to be me. That's gonna happen to me at some point. Because it happened with the first Destiny game, it's happened with the next one, and, well, what's that leave us with? Well, we've only got Marathon right now, and we've got whatever they might be coming up with and thinking to make next for their next games. So eventually it's going to happen to Marathon as well. So that
Well,
leaves players in like an apathetic state of, my game, my time is going to be completely meaningless. I might enjoy what I have right now, but it's going to be meaningless.
perhaps. Perhaps. I mean, I'll say one thing. Let's not give D1 any crap on this one.
No,
D1 does still
D1
exist.
is still
D1
playable.
moved
It's
into
still
D2.
there. You can still do everything in it. Or
Hmm.
most. I think there's some minor things
No,
that you can't do, but
I think
nearly
everything's
everything. Yeah, nearly everything.
regardless, D1 was moved on to work on D2. And kind of brings me to a nice ending point here because we've been going on for 30 minutes. Jesus. Is that Moments of Triumph ended off D1 with hope. We went into it knowing that there would be a Destiny 2, and we were more or less confident in that. It felt like a pop the champagne corks moment. It genuinely felt like a Moments of Triumph for the community. It was a celebration, very much, and it felt like that. This monument of triumph, they're calling it, feels less like a moment of celebration and more like a funerary procession. It's not a celebration. Or if it is, it's not one to celebrate life. It's
It's well,
the
no,
after party of
I
a
wouldn't say
funeral.
that. I would actually say it's quite
Hmm.
literally a celebration of life ceremony. It's one of those kinds of ceremonies. You celebrate what you had, the life. You're not mourning the death. You're celebrating the life. That's kind of how this feels right now.
How very philosophical of you.
You know, when we get there.
Still. Hmm. Still. I don't know. Regardless, when it comes to your Steam point and Valve, I will say one thing. I don't agree with you on a lot of things when it comes to Steam, or at the very least, some things.
Fair.
But I will say one thing. Gabe over at Steam and Valve knows one thing that Sony and definitely Bungie for the longest time do not, and still seem to do not grasp optics.
Mhm.
How does it look?
How do
Sure,
you
nothing lasts.
maintain the audience?
Sure, nothing lasts forever. And some people that have not been, as shall we say, affected by this or more apathetic to the whole thing have been pointing out that sure, everything ends. D2 had to end at some point. And yeah, I'd say they're very right.
You're
Don't get me
not
wrong.
wrong.
They're not wrong. But I will say it didn't have to come down like this.
Hmm.
I always believed that D2 would have to end at some point for one reason or another. I've always believed that. But as I told Justin many times yesterday, never could I have seen it so unceremoniously ended. I mean, he even
So
sent me a
yeah, like like it unceremoniously, so quickly, without a word or
even the
real
hintest of a plan.
whisper.
Yeah. Just a note slid across the table. It's over.
Hmm.
He even sent me a joke, if you can believe it. After all of this, there kind of is that scene from I can't remember what it is, where it's
Forsaken.
you know, not Forsaken, the one after that, before that, the one with
Oh,
the big guy. I can't remember what that movie is
it's
called.
it. Yeah, it's the equivalent of look at the flowers with someone with a
Look at the
gun standing
flowers.
behind you.
Yeah, that scene is pretty famous. I can't remember the movie, but if you know,
Hmm.
you know. It feels like that. It's so unsanctimonious, and it's just so just it's done.
Hmm.
It's done, and that's where I think, like I said, a good end off point because we've been going at this point for definitely over 30 minutes.
But like
Yeah,
we needed to, because this is a pretty monumental thing. Like
true,
this is
true.
major. Destiny 2
This is
is
major.
basically over. It is being put into that state where the original Destiny is, where it's up, you can play it, that's it.
That's it. But, Destiny 2 is very much done. Destiny as a franchise is effectively on ice for the foreseeable future.
Hmm.
Let us hope Sony and, well, Bungie and definitely Sony, let's be honest, they're the ones decision making at this point, actually have the brain cells to put two and two together and say, maybe we do need something beyond Marathon to keep the lights on over there, or,
Let's
you know,
let's hope they don't let Destiny as a franchise deep freeze.
yeah, well, they're already at that point, I
Well,
think, but
it's I don't know. I feel like when you said it was on ice, it really does feel like it's on ice, but if they just ignore it and don't do anything with Destiny for a while, that's basically them deep freezing it. And the longer it's deep frozen for, the more it's going to have to be a hard revive.
the more effort it's going to take to bring it back. And
Hmm.
honestly, let's hope they do put two and two together and put a Destiny 3
Start
in the works.
working.
I I say this, I hope so, but
Hmm.
I'll be blunt with all of you, ladies and gentlemen. As a gambling man, I wouldn't bet on it. I mean, at the very least, they need something other than Marathon. That's an unforsaken fact. Even moving beyond the Destiny franchise, the fact is, the true, hard fact is this. They need something other than Marathon.
Hmm.
Marathon's fine. It's a success in the double A scene. But this ain't a double A studio, and they don't want to be making double A margins. If this were Arrowhead, they'd say, sure, fine, great, smashing success. But this ain't Arrowhead. This is someone like Gorilla. They need a horizon, and this ain't that. So, they need more projects. And right now, doesn't seem like they have any. So, again, kind of finishing off with one of the things that Lawrence did say, it seems like are we in a blue point situation, right? It supposedly said when Bluepoint was closed down, after reporting did say that they were basically had a some thing in the works. It was shut down internally at Sony, and then they were effectively given a year to come up with something to grind to greenlight or have Sony greenlight to basically keep going. They didn't, and they got shut down. Thing is, Bluepoint was only like 87 some people, so Sony was being a lot more, you know, sanctimonious with them and generous because ultimately they could allow them to stay open for a year to just think of things because there was only every 87 checks to pay. Sony is, or Bungie, excuse me, is a company that, as of current anyway, prior to the layoffs, who knows what that'll end up having the final
However
number
many
result to,
people
but
are going to be put out
yeah,
there.
moved around, just booted, whatever. And in this job market, I feel for them, I really do. Um, Regardless, they're a company of 800 plus people right now.
Mm-hmm. And that's not no
Hey,
small group. Like
that
that is
yeah,
a very large number of people who obviously are going to have varying levels of salaries.
pay, yeah,
So like
and
it's so much money, and it's obvious why they're doing the layoffs because they don't have the level of revenue coming in, so it's going to be no matter what even more losses right now. It's just
mhm.
yeah.
Which kind of brings us again to our true final closing point. I'd like to think is that I mean, technically, they do have two things working for them. Technically, despite the fact that Destiny 2 is no longer getting updates, it's still technically a viable product on the market. That and Marathon, even if it's, one is technically not being fully supported anymore. Going back to the whole Steam point, if TF2 shows anything, an unsupported game doesn't necessarily equal a dead game.
Well, that's the thing. Here's the major difference there is technically TF2 is unsupported, but at the same time it's community supported because they set it up for the community to support it themselves. And that's
Hmm.
something that does not happen with AAA. That does not happen with any of the mainstream studios anywhere. Nobody really
End of
does
life
that.
policies don't really happen, but again, that's a whole topic for
Yeah,
another day.
that's a different topic, but like
We get talking to
that's
stop killing games, and
well, that's not where I'm going with that. But like
yeah.
it's one of the core reasons why Valve has the maintaining audience that they have. And that's the reason why so many big studios, although have big audiences, they have big audiences because they make big fancy products. But they don't have the people who will stick around to the old games that people want to play the old games because that support for that isn't always there. And it's the same case with Bungie right now with both Destiny games. People are going back to the old Destiny game right now because in a way it's content that they might not have ever experienced before, so they're going to that content. But once when everyone's gone through everything, it's basically going to be the state what things were like with Halo, where yeah, you're able to go through this, you're able to go and experience everything, but it's not going to be the same because Destiny thrived on the fact that it was a continuous story. There was constantly something going on, something new, some new reason to get stronger, to get more loot. That's the whole formula of Destiny. And with no more updates, that's not happening anymore.
Hmm. I'm sure there will still be some players. I mean, heck, Destiny
There are
once
going to
had
be
a
players,
decent
yes,
audience, but
100%. There
still.
are going to be players.
But still, I mean, it's a fair point, right? It was a game designed around constant grind, and now there's no more further loot to chase beyond a certain point, so it's kind of turned single player and kind of turned into that. But, we'll see. Who knows? Maybe, like I said, they will greenlight a D3. I can still hope for it. I do still hope for it. But I will, like I said, not bet on it.
Mm.
But anyways, that kind of brings us to the true end of this video, this long 30 plus minute rant we've been going on, or I don't know what you'd call it. Maybe not
Almost
a rant,
40.
but still. Almost 40, Lord. But, I think it was necessary. It's
Mm.
a long topic, and it deserves to be talked about in depth. Heck, if you stuck around this long, thank you. It's something near and dear to me, at least. I don't know about Justin, but I've been with this game
I
for D1 beta, so, a
I
long time.
I am not attached to Destiny the same way that I'm attached to Halo, but I am attached to Bungie because Bungie, no matter what, has always done solid work. And when I look at Destiny, I do see that solid work that I felt from Halo. And that's the reason why I do enjoy Destiny It's just seeing something like this happen from the studio of Bungie. It's just, it is
It's
disheartening.
sad.
It's sad.
It's sad. And again, like I said, that might just end up being the title of this video. Destiny didn't deserve this.
Destiny
So
deserved better.
Destiny deserved better, and it did not get that. It was the joke seems to be going nowadays.
Mm.
It's a bit of morbid humor, gallows humor, you can probably argue. Destiny died so Marathon could live just a little longer.
Mm.
But, we'll see how that pans out. Like I said, on a more positive ending note, true ending note, I've been saying that a lot in this last little bit, but true ending note. Destiny 2 might be gone, but the Destiny franchise is still up in the air. Love it or hate it, technically there is still the mobile game, so at least that's carrying the banner for the time being. I know, it's a little weird to see NetEase and a Chinese company and just a mobile game in general, for the sake of generalization, carrying the legacy of 10 plus years of gaming, but heck, something is better than nothing, and I'll take what I can get at this point.
And
And who knows, like I said, maybe Sony will grow a spine and a few brain cells and put two and two together and make a D3.
and no matter what, at the
I
end
can
of the
go
day,
there.
both Destiny and Destiny 2 are still up. And that is a
So,
positive. That is a good
that is
positive
a
no matter
positive.
what.
True,
So
true.
we've lost what we had, but we still have something.
We still have something. So there is still hope.
Hmm.
Not much. It's bleak, I'll be honest with you. But something, as I said, is better than nothing. And that is truly where we will end. Thank you very much for watching. Like, subscribe, comment, the usual shit.
Tell us how you feel about what's going on with Bungie if you'd like.
Though I can probably hazard a guess. And of course, subscribe. We don't do this long form content often, so it's
We've been
nice
trying
to
to make
have a
shorter videos, but this, no matter what, is a core topic. We've done a lot of Bungie and Destiny related topics a lot in the past, so this feels ceremoniously something we have to cover.
Yeah, and who knows? Maybe we'll do something around the final update in 3 weeks. Maybe we'll do some streaming. I don't know. It's still up in the air. Something more happy to end off the whole Destiny narrative for the time being, anyway.
Mm.
I don't know. Maybe I'll switch to Destiny Rising.
Until then, hopefully you all
Until
enjoyed.
then, hopefully all enjoyed. And to the folks at Bungie, the devs especially, good luck. I feel for you. Thank you
Stay
for
safe.
watching. Stay safe. Good night.